come from a small town and a 1AA starting program, to be the first ever player in the Big South to ever be drafted. No locker room, no facilities, no nothing. VCRs on top of the TV. And I remember playing my game film in one and then hitting record on the other. And we pretty much put together a highlight tape, me and my dad. Ended up leading the league in quarterbacks and rushing yards.
Sonic Gun King Cluster right, Z Turbo Clown 7 Naked right, Break Y Vaccine Kill 22 Pain Specialty.
Pulling up in the buses, I'm like, man, I would never play at this shithole. Cool story as far as to not play quarterback my senior year and then go to college, play quarterback, and then end up going to the NFL. So pretty dang special.
Tailgate Talks is proudly presented by our title sponsor, Greens Beverages, South Carolina's go-to spot for all things beer, wine, and spirits. This episode is brought to you by the High Rise Beverage Co. Real fruit-infused THC and CBD seltzers with zero artificial flavors or colors. Born in South Carolina, High Rise is here to help you elevate every moment, from the tailgate to game day. Sip smart, sip local. Buy High Rise Beverage Co. at your nearest green store today.
Looking for the perfect spot to unwind? Steel Hand Brewing in Casey has you covered. Whether you're craving a refreshing craft beer or just a great time with friends and family, Steel Hands has it all. With a variety of craft beers, spacious outdoor beer gardens, and a delicious food menu, there's something for everyone. Plus, join them for free live music every Thursday through Sunday. Visit steelhandsbrewing.com to see their lineup of upcoming events or host your own. Handforce and Casey and voted best local brewery again this year. Go visit steelhandsbrewing.com.
All right, what's up, tailgaters? We are here with, I guess, an honorary Gamecock. In a way, it's a fighting chicken. You're Chanticleer, but we're here with Tyler Thigpen from South Carolina, lives here in Columbia now, and is, I guess, would you say you're a full-on Gamecock fan now?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously when they played this past year, obviously had to be pulling for Coastal, but it's one of those things where I've always been a Gamecock fan growing up there, growing up 30 minutes outside of Columbia in Williams-Brice, South Carolina. So it's always been something to where, that I've certainly been, in my heart of hearts has always been a Gamecock fan. And, along the way of playing with Gamecocks like Stephon Gilmore in Buffalo and, got to know CJ Spiller. So it's like, I know that those words as far as like Carolina Clemson, I always, wanted to see Clemson do well, but when the Gamecocks, when they play one another, it's, at the end of the day, I'm a Gamecock fan pulling for them.
Hell yeah, that's it.
It's a good answer. Good answer right there.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit about growing up in Winnsboro and what sports you played growing up and how that kind of transitioned into high school and eventually getting into recruiting. But talk about kind of how you grew up playing youth sports and how that impact was on your career.
Yeah, I mean, from the early age, actually, my dad the other day was pulled out the VHS tape. So for all these viewers that may not even know what that is, and we were watching back when I played Little League. So it started at a young age at like 5 and 6 year old playing flag football. And then, back then it was 8, 9, 10 was your tackle football. And then 11 and 12 was a different age group. And then from there, it's kind of pretty much what you went into middle school. But as far as growing up in a small town, I mean, it just, Drawdy Park was the little recreation park where we grew up playing and played football, basketball, and baseball all growing up. So did that all the way through middle school. And then when so I went to a private school, Richard Wynn Academy in Winnsboro, and then got through 8th grade. And my brother had already done the transition because he was 4 years older. We knew that if there was any chance for me to go to play college sports, I was going to have to go to the public school just because the competition was just that much better. So going into my freshman year, we transferred over to the public school, Fairfield Central High School. And then from there, played quarterback pretty much growing up. I did play some running back when there was a better athlete at Drawdy Park, in Little League. So usually, more times than not, usually the best athlete's probably going to be your quarterback. Being that a white guy, I wasn't always the best athlete on the field, but I always like to consider I was pretty athletic. But, got to high school, as a freshman, played on JV, and then started my sophomore and junior year And then my senior year, obviously thought, wasn't really getting recruited going to college. So college really wasn't something that was on my radar.
Yep.
Being we ran the wing T. So if anybody's familiar with the wing T,
Oh shit.
you may throw the ball 5 or 6 times a game. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunately, if it was 3rd and 15 at that point, you're trying to run a fake. There's no drop back pass game in the wing T. It was all faking, so if you're doing play action on 3rd and 15, they're not really biting up on the fake, kind of more or less. But so got through my senior year after during a jamboree game, ended up bruising a rib. So I didn't even start the first 2 games, the first game. Came back the second game, didn't have a great game. And then we had just gotten a new coach or a new quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And he wanted to kind of go with the younger guy. So he's going to have him for more years than me. Ended up not having a good game my second game when I came back. And then, so going into the week 3, coach came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to start Ryan at quarterback." But good, actually, still a good friend of mine, Ryan Sharp. He actually is the offensive coordinator at River Bluff High School here in Columbia or in Lexington. But came to me and said, we're going to start Ryan. And he says, "Hey, Cornelius got hurt last week, tore his ACL. Would you want to play wingback?" And I said, "Man, at this point, I wasn't even thinking about college." I was like, "Absolutely, man. I want to be on the field
coach
playing football."
Yep.
So sure enough, ended up playing wingback and slot receiver my senior year. And I tell people to this day, after playing college ball, playing the NFL for 7 years, man, that was probably the most fun I had my senior season of high school ball. Just seeing it from a different perspective at that level. It's just being able to, when you're running routes, understanding how to get open. It's crazy. You see all these guys like, Julian Edelman, for instance. I mean, he played quarterback in college, and then to do what he did in the NFL, I mean, obviously he was a phenomenal athlete, but I think he really understood from the eyes of a quarterback of how to get himself open and understanding coverages and being able to get to the open spot and being on the same page.
Yeah. When like in high school, did you play basketball and baseball like all the way through, or did you get to a point where you're like, I need to focus on football?
So no, so actually, so I played football, basketball, and baseball growing up all the way through middle school. And then when I got to Fairfield Central, basketball was not going to be where I was going to be going to the next level. So only focused on football and baseball at that point. Luckily those did not cross over or anything like that. As far as when it came time, I mean, obviously nowadays if you play football in the fall or whatever, you're missing out on fall ball for baseball. I mean, those kids play year round nowadays, but thought baseball was my sport. I mean, I always felt like I was better at that, and a lot of people, that knew me growing up probably would argue that. But my senior year going into baseball, we ended up having 3 head coaches my senior year. And the coach that I had my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, when I started in baseball, he left my senior year. So didn't have any connections for college at that point. And then obviously having 3 head coaches. The first guy that was a head coach, something happened with the school that they let him go. And then they ended up having another guy that was like a Bush League coach that he was a brother of a guy on the team. He was only there for about 3 weeks, and then they let him go because he wasn't affiliated with the school.
Oh,
so our final head coach my senior year was a friend of mine on the team. His dad, who was the vocational school principal or whatever. So the only thing he had ever coached was Little League. So it's one of those things where we just had to do what we could do our senior year just to be able to show up, kind of thing. So it ended up, like I said, just to touch back on football. I remember after my senior year of high school football, I remember, it was kind of the time of recruiting year, or as far as recruiting season back then. I mean, it was certainly different than it is nowadays. I remember after my senior season, my dad having 2 VHS tape or VCRs on top of the TV. And I remember playing my game film in one and then hitting record on the other. And we pretty much put together a highlight tape, me and my dad. And we started, getting in touch with my old coach who knew a college coach, and then sending it out. And then, sure enough, in January, Coastal Carolina, who was just starting up a program, they had just hired a coach in December of 2001. and ended up coming to, they came to Fairfield, or as far as like just recruiting, ended up talking with their offensive coordinator that they had hired, Jamie Snyder. And long story short, he came in and said, "Hey, we want, if you had the opportunity to go back and play quarterback, would you want to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So he goes, "Well, we're going to bring you down on a recruiting visit, and would love to talk with you and your parents." And sure enough, there in January, they offered me a full scholarship, and I accepted. I got recruited as far as like at Newberry and Carson Newman for a tight end, but nowhere else as a quarterback. So it's a cool story as
That's
far as to not play quarterback my senior year and then go to college, play quarterback, and then end up going to the NFL. So pretty dang special.
that's a hell of a story. Good God.
It is wild. I mean, it just goes to show you that like good football players are good football players, even if it's like not the perfect timing for you to play quarterback or you need to be used somewhere else. Like versatility. I mean,
Absolutely.
that ended up transitioning. I'm sure being first year program at Coastal, your running back skills and your receiver skills came into play, running away from people with like not a proven true offensive line in front of you.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we certainly had our bumps and bruises. Our first year at Coastal in 2002, when we went down there, we didn't even have a football stadium at the time. So like we get down there and we're sharing a locker room, the soccer team, we're sharing a locker room with them. We got 120 guys. There's only 13 scholarship guys. So we had 107 walk-on guys that were just literally there for practice.
Love of the game, man.
What's that?
Said love of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the guys were like 28 years old that had just came to Coastal just to get education, and they saw a sign that said, "Hey, we're accepting walk-ons at this point." So literally, in 2002 when we got down there, we had no locker room, no facilities, no nothing. I mean, we were sharing the locker room with 120 guys with 20 soccer guys in college. I mean, we were. The old school lockers in high school where it's about this wide, where you could just
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
it's pretty much wide enough just to get your helmet in. I mean, your
Yep.
shoulder pads, you were pretty much shoving them in there. And there was 2 to 3 guys a locker in there. So I mean, and then we would get in our cars and drive to the rec field to practice. There was an old driving range that shut down to where we're stretching. The coaches had their own personal lawnmowers out there cutting the grass while we're stretching. One of the guys, unfortunately, it's a couple. Every once in a while, there's this one guy that would sit in an ant pile. And of course, you'd see this guy start, freaking
Jumping
out
out.
over there. He's got ants in his pants, kind of thing. Um, and then, it's funny because, like, I feel like the one practice field that we had with it was really sure, or like, as far as solid, was the Conway Rec Department. And it was so funny because, we're a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old guys that we're practicing on a high school, or excuse me, a rec field. We're walking off and you see these little 8, 9, 10-year olds walking on to practice for the day. But it was so crazy. I mean, we did that for an entire year. We wore full pads 6 days a week. As far as, and we scrimmaged every Saturday or whatever. So I think coach's goal was to kind of weed out the guys who really didn't want to be there.
Yep.
Ultimately. But I mean, I remember those memories. It's so funny when you get back with those teammates and stuff and talk. You're talking about, we were getting in our vehicles, guys were in the back of trucks, which I'm pretty sure is illegal to ride around now, just riding to practice, just trying to make do and make it happen kind of thing. So
I mean, dude, that's wild because, like, I mean, we'll get to it later, but like the current state of Coastal's program now, but like 25 years ago, like,
yeah,
isn't that long ago? It was
no,
like building it from the ground up, practicing on rec fields, and now they're like every every 2 or 3 years they flirt with the top 25.
yeah, absolutely.
It's freaking crazy.
It's great. That's the thing, is those kids nowadays just don't understand where the program started and where it is today, and that's always great to be a part of, a program to be able to build it from the ground up and to be able to go back and see how much has changed now. Those are things that, we did as a collective group, and we were able to, to be a part of it. So it's pretty special.
I mean, Pat, for all intents and purposes, man. I mean, even walking around at the new state, or not the new stadium, but like the area of Columbia. I mean, it was significantly different back in 2007 when we got there. I mean, night and day different. So, you talk about driving in cars and people hopping in the back of trucks. I mean, we had teammates that would hop in the back of our trucks. Now you got guys that are driving Range Rovers and freaking all
Yeah.
Maybachs and all sorts of shit.
It,
It's
it's
insane.
unbelievable, man. It's certainly. I mean, we can obviously touch on that, but it's definitely a different day and age. With college sports nowadays.
Yeah, as much as, and I know, like you quarterbacks obviously would have reaped a lot more benefits than us mere fullbacks, but like I don't envy the time that we played in. Like it was like relatively innocent. Like you win at the game because you love the game.
Absolutely.
You
No
were
doubt.
out there grinding with your brothers, and now it's like a business transaction. Like you get to the NFL and like you get the reality of like I'm a piece of meat.
Yeah.
Here today, gone tomorrow. Like they don't really care. So what have you done for me lately? Business, and at least in college, like you were provided like a 4-year scholarship unless you broke rules, and that was your only really out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, now it's like, hey, your scholarship is not renewed. You need to find a new home,
Yeah. I mean,
or like, hey, you're not paying me enough money, so I'm going to
Right.
go explore other options, and then
that's
eventually
right.
realize options aren't great. Let me go back to the first place I started, and they're like, no,
Yeah.
you. Like, you wanted to leave us, go find a new spot.
That's right. And I mean, that's the thing, though, is like, there's no loyalty anymore to the universities. I mean, when you came to South Carolina, both of y'all, when y'all came to South Carolina, back then it's like, all right, I'm gonna be here for 4, maybe 5 years, depending on if I redshirt. And
Yep.
nowadays it's pretty much just like a 1-year contract because it's like you said, I mean, they're looking for the next best thing. And, these kids come in nowadays and it's like, how much are you gonna pay me? Instead of like, hey, we want you to come here. How about a free education?
Mm,
At the end of the day, but these kids, they don't look at it that way.
no.
No.
And unfortunately, it's one of those things where these kids that bounce around from, team to team. I mean, there's no, the guys don't really gel together, like they used to. You're not able to
No
develop
doubt.
the players like you used to, when you got a guy for 4 or 5 years. So it's unfortunate that it's come to that, but it's you either can get on board and embrace it as far as like the coaches, and just to do the best you can. I mean, it's one of those things too where I was talking to a guy the other day. It's like, and you guys know this too, just obviously being in the football realm. It's like when you recruit, you're going out trying to recruit freshmen or the portal, whatever, but you got to recruit the guys that are in your dang
Yep.
building.
Yep.
I mean,
It's
that's
not
just
even really
unbelievable.
recruiting. It's strictly a payment at this point.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's all it is.
hey,
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, you're seeing it trickle down to even the high school level. I mean, I don't know what it's like up in South Carolina, but here in Tampa, at least, people are going from high school to high school
that's crazy.
almost every single year. Every year, it's insane.
yeah. But you talked on it just a couple minutes ago, but like the development of a guy like you didn't play quarterback your senior year of high school, played receiver, went to a school and immediately had a red shirt. You practicing on a rec field, but talk about like what it took to get you to a point where you're like, okay, like I can play college quarterback at a high level. Like, what was that growth and development like at Coastal?
As far as I mean, it took us 9 games my freshman year in 2003 to throw a touchdown pass. So I mean, to go from being taking us 9 games. I mean, it was almost like a running joke at this point. Like, will this be the game? And then finally, we just it finally was one of those things where it finally we broke the ice as far as that ninth game. And then I think the last 2 games I threw 2 touchdowns each or whatever. So it's breaking through that. But I mean, as far as each year, I mean, obviously, at that point, it's like, obviously I knew I was a starter, but they were bringing in guys each and every year to try and take my place. I mean, which is
Mhm.
what it used to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, to me, it was always one of those things where I knew I had to get better every year. I mean, our offense certainly evolved, over the years. As far as our first year, we were definitely run. We ran option, triple option, things like that. I mean, it was run, run, and throw them third down. And then, our sophomore year, we did a little bit more. We got some more receivers. Got a guy named, Jerome Simpson who played in the NFL for a few years. Phenomenal athlete. And then Mike Tolbert came in that year as well. Mike Tolbert,
Yeah.
Pat. So we definitely had some great athletes that the coaches were recruiting. But as far as like I said, my junior year we started opened up throwing a lot, a little bit more, and then our senior year we went completely spread. I mean, we had the athletes. We had let go of our original offense coordinator that started the program. And then pretty much went to a spread offense to where we opened it up, and certainly had some success our senior year. And that's, going into my senior year, I think a couple scouts were coming through, obviously doing their recruiting and stuff for the NFL. And, like they had mentioned to coaches like, hey, you got a guy with a big arm, things like that, I didn't think at the time. First of all, I was in high school and I wasn't even thinking about going to college. And then that kind of, fell into my lap as far as, with that. And then get to college, I wasn't thinking about going to the NFL. I mean, that was not that it wasn't a dream of mine. It was just, we didn't, the numbers that we were putting up until my senior year, there was like, I'm not going to the NFL. I'm lucky to, be the starter here more or less. So going into my senior year, Coach Bennett, my head coach, and then Coach Kevin Brown, they both set me down and said, "Hey, you got a real opportunity, going into your senior year to potentially go to the next level." And that was in the spring of, after my junior year, going into my senior year, and I took that to heart because it was like, all right, I've been here for, 3 or 4 years with these guys. We have the skill, the skill set as far as, with the weapons and everything, being on the same page and everything as far as a receiver group. So I took it upon myself after spring ball. I mean, we, obviously still have doing your workouts and everything, but every single day during the summer, workouts or whatever, every day after our run, we'd always, get the receivers together, running backs and everybody, and just go through the passing tree as far as just of going through different things and being on the same page and really put in the effort that, we went into our senior season or whatever. It really was almost like second nature of being on the same page with those guys because of all the work we put in the off season.
Dude, you freaking shredded it. You almost had 4,000 total yards.
Yeah. I mean,
threw for 33 and ran for almost 7.
Yeah.
I mean, 29 touchdowns. And not to mention, you guys had some big time victories. You beat James Madison, beat Furman. You guys did a lot of shit in 4 or 5 years of the
and
program.
James Madison 05. I mean, like I said, we beat James Madison. They were number 1 in the country. They came to our place, and as the coaches broke out black uniforms, which we hadn't had yet. It's kind of one of those things where, we felt like that was the thing that put us over. That gave us that edge or whatever that to going into that game as a night
We
game.
were the opposite. We sucked when we had cool uniforms. I think we lost every time we got
but yeah, I mean, like I said, Furman was number 3 in the country our senior year, beat them at home. That was just, obviously, like you said, we had some big wins, but those guys that we were together for 4 and 5 years. I mean, I think we had 16 seniors my senior year starting. So once we graduated the next year, in 2007, I mean, the coaches were pretty much building from the ground up again. It's almost like, nowadays with these programs of so many different starters that, they weren't all necessarily freshmen or whatever, but that I could see how some of these teams that have a great year the year before struggle the next year because they lose so many guys in the portal.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it is that, I guess it's a negative and a perk because you can revamp your roster in 1 year. If you go to the portal and you get a bunch of junior seniors transferring from other schools, somebody's trash could be your treasure. I mean, South Carolina's kind of in a way, really taking advantage of that with guys like Spencer Rattler, Demetrius Knight, Rocket Sanders.
Absolutely.
Some big name, Brandon Cisse, big name guys that were, good players at other schools, but wanted a fresh start and came here and blew the top off.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, obviously, those guys have given those guys a second chance. They may not have worked out at, another place like Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. I mean, like you said, one man's trash is another man's treasure, but that gives a guy like Spencer a new lease on life, to come in here and prove something, to be able to potentially go to the next level, which he has.
Yeah, which is also you're still in the SEC. You're still playing in front of the dudes.
That's right.
I mean, you look at right now, a lot of these guys that just left Alabama. Alabama is usually 2 or 3 deep of dudes on their roster, and now they're just getting picked apart. Back when we played, who they had Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy, and another, and I think it was TJ Yeldon, all on the same roster.
Yeah, which is freaking believable.
stupid. But I mean, that also goes to like it's also a negative of like a coastal school. It's like you're not top tier. So
Yeah,
if you're a stud there, you're going to get poached real quick to go play somewhere in the SEC where you can make a bunch of money.
exactly. I mean, I've said this before since this whole portal thing. The old junior college, obviously, Coastal Carolina and 1AA schools who now are smaller 1A schools. Those are junior colleges now. I mean, you have a guy that has a lot of success 1 year. Coastal can't come in and pay a guy like Ohio State or South Carolina, or at the end of the day, we lost a D tackle who they had paid like 30 grand to 1 year, and he went to Michigan. I mean, there was no way to keep
Yeah.
paying him that money. I mean, you lose those guys, unfortunately. I mean, it's just
I would have killed for 30 grand in
oh my
college.
gosh, I was getting people always say like, "Did you get paid?" I'm like, I got paid no attention. That's what I got paid.
We got
I'll tell you what,
46 bucks a week. I don't know exactly what the number is, but it was 40 something bucks a weekend we got. And like, I thought I was rich with 40 something bucks.
Yeah, we got. I think
it was
our
a shit show.
our monthly check that we got, and that was pretty much we live off of, was $750, and that included like you had to pay for your housing, your meals. I mean, it was. We thought. I mean, shoot, when I got that check, I mean, like you said, I thought I was rich. And we made it work. I mean, nowadays these kids are getting paid, $10,000 a week or whatever. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's beyond unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I got a couple of buddies that are coaching at, Delaware and some of these other schools, and these kids will ask the coaches for practice tape. And years past, they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, like here's practice tape." Next thing you know, they're out of there. They're sending their practice tape to their handler, their agent. Their agent is shopping them around other schools.
Unbelievable.
So now they don't give practice tape because teams are literally poaching from Coastal Carolina, from
Oh, yeah.
Delaware's, from Georgia State's, from those kind of schools, and these kids are just chasing the bag, as they say. And they got the agents in their ears saying, "Hey, Florida's going to offer you 250 grand. You need to go there."
Yeah.
By the way, here's my 10% finder's fee.
Yeah,
Go ahead and-
exactly. I mean, there's a reason those agents are agents or whatever. They're taking their money off the top for sure. And then that's the other thing
Yeah.
too, is like, how much longer before we start seeing these kids that are going to get in trouble with tax evasion and stuff like that? Are they being coached up on all this stuff? I mean, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are like, "Man, you made $10 million," and I'm like, "Well, guess what? I can promise you $10 million is not $10 million. You know that, Pat. I mean, when you see that pretty big number by a guy in the when he signs this big contract, I'm like, all right, you can cut that in half. Does he live in California or New York? You can cut that, another, 10% off of it. Then you got your agent, then you got your living expenses. I mean, at the end of the day, you almost, and the lifestyles, you saw how those guys drove around, 4 or 5 different cars, and they had a house for their mom. And, and that's great and all. But at the end of the day, at some point, some of that stuff runs dry. I mean, ask Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, he didn't think his career was going to end when it did, like it did. But, when that well runs dry, those guys obviously unfortunate that they've spent it all.
Take home before any expenses was like just over 50% of whatever your check was. I mean, I think when I was in Buffalo, it was 51.7%. So
that's insane.
48.3 was going to taxes and agent fees and union dues and everything else. And then on top of that, like I'm living in Buffalo, but my residence is in Atlanta. So you're paying for 2 places.
That's it.
Quality of life, upkeep of your body, like body maintenance. Like everybody forgets, like from January through April, like it's on the player's expense to pay for training, to pay for off-season workouts, massages, physical therapy, all that stuff too. So I mean, it's a lot, and I know a lot of these guys now are 1099s, which is good. I mean, if they're smart with it, like you can pocket a lot more money as a 1099 than you could as a W-2 when we were.
Okay, yeah.
Like they can create they can
NFL's
be their own
1099.
Yeah, they can be their own business, and essentially,
I thought Caleb Williams tried doing that, and they said no.
They have to be paid as 1099. I mean, they're not employees of the university.
I'm talking about the NFL guys.
Oh yeah, no, NFL you have to be W-2.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the college guys.
Yeah, but college guys are 1099s, which was a lot of advantages. They can deduct everything.
That's a huge advantage.
At what point does that's the other thing I talk about in taxes. I mean, you can at some point, IRS can come knocking on your door, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I was a dumb 22-year-old. You gave me my rookie contract, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And thank God I hired a financial advisor because he's like, yeah, what you did the first couple of months was all wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Gamecocks. At Granger Rowings, style starts with you. From custom fits to emerging brands, they offer a curated selection of women's and men's clothing for work, weekends, and every moment in between. Their stylists take the time to understand your lifestyle, then help you build a wardrobe that fits your needs and feels like you. Shop in store, downtown on Main Street and Trenton Plaza, or book a fitting online at grangerowings.com. Granger Owings, where personal style meets personal service.
Listen up, Gamecock Nation. Meet your new favorite streamer, Deputy Smitty. A former police officer and diehard South Carolina Gamecock fan, Deputy Smitty brings action-packed content to life every night on Twitch starting at 9:30 p.m. Connect with him on social media by searching Deputy Smitty and join his growing community on Discord at discord.gg/Deputy Smitty. So grab a drink and catch the thrills, laughs, and plenty of Gamecock pride in every stream.
Tailgate Talks is brought to you by JCQ Farms, a proud South Carolina family farm rooted in tradition and built on quality. Whether it's their premium beef, farm fresh produce, or their signature smoked meats, JCQ Farms brings the taste of the South straight to your table. Perfect for your next tailgate, backyard barbecue, or family dinner. Remember, always support your American farms because they are drying out each day. Support local, eat better, and stock up for the season. JCQ Farms, where quality meets Carolina pride.
Well, let's get into your NFL career. Kind of like, when did you, I guess, was it your senior year where you were like, oh, shit, like I got something here. Like I'm going to have a chance to play in the NFL as you started to light it up your senior year?
Yeah, senior year. I mean, that's when I certainly got a lot of accolades as far as, All American, Conference Player of the Year, all those things that added up that, I didn't get it. I didn't even make all conference or anything like my, freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So like my senior year, I just waited until my senior year to do any of that stuff kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, as far as once I got done with senior season, played in a little all-star game in Jackson, Mississippi. The Gridiron Classic, I think is what it was called. It only lasted for like 2 years. First time I'd ever flown on a plane down there. And, you go down there, you're trying to learn a new offense, and that's the other thing too, that, college to me is so simple from a standpoint of, and I remember Steven talking to Connor and stuff, like as far as like with y'all's offense at Carolina or whatever, it was just so simple. I mean, that's, to me, I always come back and say, like, for coaches, keep it simple for those guys. It's not your job, in my opinion, to get them ready for the lingo for the NFL. Like, let that sort itself out. Your job is to win football games in college.
Yep.
So just to touch on that. But as far as, just after my senior year, get down there for the All-Star game, had a pretty good All-Star game as far as the practice during the week. Game wasn't great. It was actually the 1AA versus 1A players was that All-Star game. So didn't have necessarily a great game, but didn't have a bad game by any means. And then I came back to Coastal, started training, obviously did not go to the combine. Had a bunch of different coaches come in, or not a bunch of, I think the Eagles came in, the Bengals. I think we had 6 teams come for our pro day. And then had a couple teams come back after and do like the little individual workouts they do. But as far as just, had people talking, like saying from the 4th round to the 7th round, as far as like where I was at on their board. Didn't really put any weight into that. Didn't really know going into it. As far as, watch the whole 2 days of the draft, because back then it was just first through the 3rd round on the first day, and then it was the 4th through the 7th round on the second day. So I remember watching, both days or whatever, just with family and friends at my apartment. And I remember watching talking to some, got to the, 5th round, the 6th round, and then you start having the teams call in like, hey, we'd love to bring you in as a free agent kind of thing. And then, as it's going through the 7th round, and then next thing you know, I get a call from back then I had a little flip phone, sitting up, and we had terrible reception, right? I had it sitting up on a little spot where I could only get service. And I ended up seeing a number pop up, say Minnesota. I'm like, all right, they weren't somebody that said that I was really on their board. So sure enough, ended up them calling. It was Brad Childress, the head coach for the Vikings at the time, ended up saying, like, "Hey, Tyler, this is Brad Childress with the Vikings. We're going to draft you with pick 217." And sure enough, hung up the phone. And then next thing you know, you see the Minnesota Vikings select Tyler Thigpen. So,
Badass.
so pretty cool little, as far as just the whole series, how it all played out to see it unfold, to come from a small town and a 1AA starting program, to be the first ever player in the Big South to ever be drafted.
That's
Pretty
crazy.
special looking back at it. When it's all said and done, it was a cool experience. It's one of those things to where, like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't have done anything different. A lot of people are like, "Oh, would you wish you'd have gone somewhere different?" I'm like, no, because those are the type of memories that are going to last a lifetime. That, to me, that shaped and molded who I was. But as far as just once I got to Minnesota, I remember just it being the biggest whirlwind. I was a homebody, like, growing up. Went to Coastal, so I was only about 2 hours away from home, and then get drafted on this weekend. The next weekend, I'm there for mini camp or rookie mini camp. And I mean, you talking about throwing the book at you. I mean, I remember, and I will say this, I remember calling my quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator my senior year, who I'm still close with. I remember calling him and just talking with him and saying, like, almost like in tears, saying, like, "I don't want to do this." Like, it was just that big of a shock for me. I mean, when they throw 20 plays at you on the first day that you got to learn, and, like, I mean, we had plays like black 9 or
Yep.
black 2 or red, like, just simple.
Menu 3.
If I said 921 to everybody, they knew that was quick game, and then the inside receivers were running two routes, which are outs, the outside were running ones, which are slants. I mean, that was it. I mean, and then you get these plays now, it's like, in the West Coast, or, it's like
Wow.
zero half, right, 35 week kill, 52 D slant tosser. I mean, it's like, all these, you're just up there trying to learn that, and you're still wet behind the ears coming out of college. And I mean, I just remember just looking over at the DN. He was Brian Robeson was the DN that got drafted from Texas.
Yep.
And I remember just talking with him, and we're in our hotel room after we're like, we got it for Thursday, and I'm sitting there. I was like, "How many plays y'all install?" Or whatever. He's like, "We just put 2 plays in." And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" He was like, "Rush up the field and then twist." Like, that was it. So I remember just being like, "Oh my gosh!" So, the first day they threw 20 plays, then the next day they threw another 20 on top of those, and then they threw another 20 the third day. And I just remember my head just wanting to explode. I mean, first of all, trying to learn the verbiage, like, I was used to I right, now it's green right. I mean, and then, as far as protections, I mean, there was a slide left and a slide right. There was no other kind of protections. Now it's like, now I'm identifying the mic. I need to know if the line sliding to the 4 down on the wheel. And then at this point, I'm hot off of Mike Sam. I mean, it's all the stuff that I'm trying to learn that I had no ideas. I mean, I don't even think I knew, like, protections until maybe halfway through my freshman, or excuse me, my rookie or second year. I mean, it was kind of one of those things to where I was just playing off instincts. It's like, all right, if nobody, in college, it was like we didn't run hot. It was like, I'll make a guy miss and run for the first down. I mean, that was my hot read in college. But in the NFL, I mean, obviously the level of talent is just that much better, and that's just, there's so many kids that, when I talk to these kids nowadays, they always ask, like, "Oh, what was the NFL like?" And, other people are like, "What's the difference in college and NFL?" I'm like, for one, it's the speed of the game, but the level of talent. I mean, less than 1% of high school kids make it to college. And then it's less than, like, 0.5% that make it from college to the NFL. So, and I always say to these kids, I'm like, get an education, like, because I can tell you right now, like, I'd love to see every single one of y'all play in the NFL, but the likelihood of that is not going to happen. So, make sure you get your education first, because you're going to have something to fall back on. Because, at the end of the day, as much as I would like to have played for, 20 years in the NFL, I mean, you got to have something to fall back on. The NFL is not for long. It stands for not for long for a reason, because it'll chew you up and spit you out in a heartbeat.
Well, average life is 2.7 years in the NFL.
2.7?
Yep, just before pension.
Holy shit. Just before, right. I'll tell you what, Tyler, so I'm doing some draft prep stuff down here in Tampa.
Yeah.
And so we met up with John Gruden,
Yeah.
usually on Tuesday mornings, but today we met this morning. So 7 a.m. and he's out there fired up, and I'm just going to read you one of
Like,
the play calls. So we went through like some protection stuff today, and then one of the protections is, or one of the play calls is Sonic Gun King Cluster right, Z Turbo Clown 7 Naked right, break Y vaccine, kill 22 paint specialty.
dude, unfreaking.
And he's asking these guys like, all right, what I just say? And I'm like, I'm looking at Joe, the guy that I'm doing his combine prep for. I'm like, good luck, dude. This welcome to the show, man. This is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then
Throw it to
we're
the
going
open
over.
receiver.
Yeah, we're going to protections, and he's over there just. I mean, I'm not going to say what Gruden was saying on this because I'm sure he wouldn't like it, but I mean, he is one fiery son of a bitch. He absolutely loves football, and
No doubt.
he is strictly a protection guy. He doesn't care about the routes.
Yep.
His big thing is protections, and
Keeping
I learned more about fronts and like over unders, blitz packages, double A gap this morning
Yeah.
in 2.5 hours than I learned in 4.5 years with Spurrier.
that's what
It was unbelievable.
and that's the thing that, like, to me, on a college level, it's not your responsibility to make these kids, to make these kids thinking like they're in the NFL, like as far as like that terminology and stuff like that. It's your job to get
Right.
those kids out there and play football, because like I
Mhm.
said, at the end of the day, that's you for one, you've got an edge. I mean, you're still in school in college. You're only allowed to 20 how many hours a week, Pat? Do y'all know how many?
Oh, it's 20. It's a 4-hour rule a day.
Okay. So you're only allowed 20 hours. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like they're still trying to, go to class and things like that. So to me, that's one of the things that, like, I think a few years ago with, I can't remember the OC, it was before Dowell or whatever, but, I felt like in talking to some people that were there, they were talking about how complicated the system was. And that's where I'm like, these kids are going out there. They're trying to think about the play instead of going out there and just playing football. And
Yep.
really and truly, I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's why, to me, that's why y'all had the success with Spurrier, that those guys were out there playing football.
Yeah.
Because once they get to the NFL, I mean, it's now their job to learn that stuff. I mean, it's not their job to try and learn that in college. Then they can just transition into the NFL. I mean, it's that's one of those things to where I feel like keeping it simple for those guys to play on the college level is what it's all about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they got scholarships for a reason. They're super talented. Now, don't make them play mind games and really not have the confidence to go out there and play. I mean, we saw several guys that even that we played with that were some of the most talented guys on the team, but they could never just embrace the offense or never learn it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, our offense was kind of simple, but it was also pretty complex. Thankfully, we played in the same system for 4 or 5 years.
Right. I think that was the biggest thing, is that we played in the same system. We didn't have. I mean, I could not imagine having 3 or 4 different offensive coordinators.
Yeah. I mean, bless Sellers. I mean,
hell.
that's got to be tough on Sellers, man. And give him a credit, because at the end of the day, that would be tough. There's no doubt about that.
3 OCs in 4 years. Yeah, that ain't fun.
Nah.
We'll talk about, I mean, so you went through training camp in 2007 with the Vikings. They cut you, went to put you on practice squad.
Yep.
And Chief said, no. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the part that I don't think a lot of people, like, everybody, thinks that these guys make millions of dollars and all this stuff, and they don't realize, like, the tough part about, being a professional. I mean, I remember, when cut day came or whatever for, after training camp, I remember, I had a good, like, the first preseason game, I had a really good preseason game for the Vikings. And I remember thinking, like, all right, I'm gonna get some more playing time. Well, the next game I didn't get much playing, and then the third game, that was pretty much where you had all the starters play. And then the fourth game didn't even have anything other than hand the ball off. So coming to find out, they really tried to shut me down and, like, not let anybody see me anymore. And then I remember once cut day came, they ended up cutting me, and then you go on waivers for 24 hours, and then you sign your practice squad papers. So I remember before my 24 hours was up, I went into Minnesota and signed my practice squad papers. And then I'm walking around Best Buy, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna buy myself a PlayStation 3. I've never treated myself to something. I know I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be in an apartment by myself in Minnesota. I said, I'm gonna get me a PlayStation 3. Well, sure enough, I'm walking around Best Buy. Joel Turner, my agent, Pat, you know him as well. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing, Fig?" And I was like, "I'm walking around Best Buy. I'm about to buy me PlayStation 3 or whatever." And he goes, "Well, put it back. Kansas City just called me or whatever. They're going to be calling you in a few minutes. They're claiming." And I'm like, "What?" So I didn't know how this whole works. And I'm like, sure enough, hang up the phone with him. put the PlayStation back, and sure enough, I'm walking out of the store and I get a call um, from the Chiefs or whatever, and they're the secretary's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and coordinate your flight or whatever. How far are you from the airport? Da da da, all this stuff." And they're like, "All right, we got you a flight out at 7 o'clock tonight." And this is like at 3:30 in the afternoon, so I've got to go back and pack all my stuff up, in my apartment or whatever. Luckily, I hadn't signed a lease or anything like that. There's so many people that may have already signed a lease, and that was one thing that I was always guided with Joel. It was like, he's like, "Man, if you can do month to month, great, because you just never know in this business. You sign a year lease, now you're stuck with 11 other months or whatever it might be." So sure enough, get on the flight at 7 o'clock. I had a connection flight. I can't remember where I connected through, but ended up getting to Kansas City at like 1 in the morning, to the hotel. The guy drops me off. He's like, "Hey, I'll be back at 5 in the morning to pick you up for physical." So sure enough, lay down, wake back up, get there, hand in my playbook as I'm walking in. I'm going in to, do the physical to make sure I'm healthy and all this. And then sure enough, as soon as you get out of that, you're going straight to meet with the coaches to try and learn a whole new offense when you had just spent, 4 months
4
trying to
hours.
learn, which was completely different. I mean, it's one thing going from a West Coast to another West Coast that maybe has some different terminology, but, the offenses were completely different. I mean, it was like, the formation I write was now 0 and 1. And, like things like that, they were just completely different to be able to, those are the things that you don't realize that, they see those big numbers by those guys, names or whatever when they sign those contracts. But, those are the behind the scenes that, as soon as I went in there, it was expected to me of week one and like, "Hey, you've got to learn this offense to get to the point to where like, hey, if your number gets called, you've got to be ready to go." Yeah, we'll have a scaled down offense as far as, not calling all the plays. But, we expect you to pretty much know everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, so that first year, were you the second or third guy your first year?
I was a third string guy my first year. Yeah.
Yeah, but then in 2008, you started 11 games. So
Yeah. Yeah.
really learning
2008,
that.
my freshman year, or excuse me, my second year in Kansas City. I remember being third string, going through training camp and everything. And then I want to say it was week 2 of the season against the Raiders. Both guys go down, and then I get thrown in there at the fourth quarter or whatever. Ended up
Against the Raiders, too?
against
That's
the
a fun one.
Raiders. Ended up driving down, scoring a touchdown. Didn't end up, obviously winning the game. Then week 3, we go to Atlanta, starting my first game ever. And shoot, man, what a whirlwind that was. Go out there and throw 3 picks the first start ever. I thought I'd more or less made it. But looking back, that's where I still didn't feel like I understood the game full. I mean, I remember throwing a hitch into 2-man. I mean, that was like the biggest no-no looking back. But I mean, I was just playing off of athletic ability.
Yeah.
But didn't have a great game when I started against Atlanta. The next week, one of the other guys, he was back healthy, so he started for the next 2 games. And then our starter, Brody Kroll, he came back from his shoulder injury against the Tennessee Titans. So he ended up coming in starting towards ACL in the first quarter. Backup quarterback comes in, Damon Heward. He's playing, ends up breaking his thumb in the third quarter. So I ended up going in and playing the fourth quarter, and then from there I started the rest of the season. So as far as, and that was another thing too, is we completely changed. Chan Gailey was my offensive coordinator, and we completely changed the entire offense. Once I became the starter, we went to more of a pistol offense of getting me in the gun. And that, at that point, I mean, we, put up 24 points a game. I mean, we did well. I mean, as far as we had some guys like Dwayne Bowe and Tony Gonzalez, and, Jamal, we had Larry Johnson was our running back, which he had just gotten paid the year before. And unfortunately, to me, looking back, honestly, Jamal Charles was our best guy, the running back from Texas. He was more of a scat back in the gun that could run things or whatever. But, as far as, that year I ended up throwing for 18 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Had really, ended up leading the league in quarterbacks and rushing yards. So certainly had a lot of success, and thought going into the next year was going to be, my chance to take over the team, but they ended up firing Herm Edwards and hiring Todd Haley. And then, going through the next year as a backup, third game of the season, Tuesday was a National Day Players Day off. Sure enough, get a phone call at like noon on Tuesday, like, hey, come in and meet with Scott Pioli. Like, I'm like, there's two things. I called my agent. He's like, there's two things that happen on Tuesday, which I knew this at that point was you either getting cut or you're getting traded.
Yep.
Sure enough, find out at right after lunch, I'm getting traded to Miami Dolphins. So I've got a flight out at 4 o'clock. So meanwhile, I got to go back and pack up my apartment again on a flight to go to Miami. The same exact thing. So it's just, that's the crazy part. Luckily, at the time, I had a girl visiting me that I was dating at the time. She ended up packing all my stuff up in the apartment that I was renting and driving my car down to Miami for me. Because if it didn't, I would have had to, 2 weeks later, I had to fly back to Kansas City to
Get
get
all
my
your shit.
vehicle or back up my apartment or whatever. So, those are things that people don't realize that are behind the scenes of how crazy the NFL is as far as from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean that's an expensive Tuesday. I mean to
Absolutely.
be able to relocate and pack up all your stuff, that's at least $5,000 or $10,000 to move
There's no
from
doubt.
Kansas City to Miami. We'll talk about like kind of that 2008 season and getting that starting experience and getting those reps. Which I mean, for the rest of your career, you kind of were a backup. But what that meant from being able to support the starter, being able to learn the offense, kind of being able to be thrown in the fire and be able to withstand.
Yeah, I mean, as far as just, that's the thing is like, you're expected as a backup to perform just like the starter, even though, out of 10 plays in a period or whatever, you might get 2 reps. So to go from being a third string in those games, because, back then, a lot of teams nowadays, they only dress 2 quarterbacks.
Yep.
Because back then you could dress your third quarterback, but we were still inactive unless the first 2 guys went down.
Yep.
So, being a third string, getting thrown into those 2 games, I mean, it was certainly, not even having any practice reps. But as far as to have the success we did, I mean, we ended up, we had 7 fourth quarter leads of those 11 starts that we ended up losing. You know, Obviously with our defense, we really, our defense was 31st out of 32 teams.
Oh, facts.
That's how bad they were. I mean, as far as the worst team was the Detroit Lions, who went 0-16 that year.
Yeah, yep. Proceed.
So
Oh shit.
we were right next to them from that standpoint. But like I said, I mean, to be able to be the starter and everything start changing, as far as the offense, going to more gun, and that was one of those things. We were having success, we were putting up points, but as far as we'd score a touchdown and then our defense would go out there and let the team come back. So at some point when you're in a shootout, at some point whoever ends up making a mistake or whatever it might be, the other team obviously is waiting to capitalize on that. But the one thing that I would say, as being thrown into that, for any other guys that might be, in those situations is, you got to prepare yourself each and every week like you're the starter. The mental reps every single time or whatever. I even say to these kids in high school, when I might go out to a practice here at Chapin High School, you see the backup quarterbacks over there just doing something different. I'm like, man, you got to be watching exactly what's going on with these guys, because you
Right.
never know. You're only one play away. If you're the third string, you're 2 plays away. So you've
Mhm.
always got to be preparing yourself. And I'll say the biggest thing too that I didn't do in college and high school is whatever is film study. I mean, that was something that became something that I had to learn late in the game as far as in college or in the NFL of film study. And, there's so much you can learn tendencies on the, opposing defense that, those guys, when you hear those stories about Peyton Manning, the Drew Brees, the Tom Brady, those guys lived at the
Yep.
facility pretty much, as far as when it came to film
Yep.
study.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like football in general is just reps, right? The more reps you get, the more comfortable you are, and all that. I remember talking to Jake Fromm when he got drafted by Buffalo in the 5th round, and he was a kid who was coming from like under the lights in high school. He was on a TV show, and then he went to Georgia and he won national championship and was a starter as a freshman. And he came to Buffalo, and he was the third or fourth string quarterback, and really struggled not being the dude and being in the limelight. I mean, we had Josh Allen, we had Matt Barkley, we had some dudes, and they bumped heads because Jake was such a big personality and wanted to speak over Josh, to tell the OC and the head coach that he knew all the answers to all the questions. And I remember, like, great kid, but I was like, hey, we need to go to dinner. Like, I was going into my 10th year. I was like, look, they drafted you in the 6th round or 5th round, whatever it was. Like, you're not the
Yeah,
starter.
exactly.
Like, they drafted Josh 6 overall or 7 overall. Like, your job is to make his life the greatest life ever, to tell him how good he is, to support him, help him with things that he missed so that he doesn't miss them anymore. And if you get your chance, awesome, take advantage of it. You're a pro. But he was just like, really? Like, that's why? Like, I'm like, yes. Like, the sooner you learn that, the longer your career is going to be.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. I mean, you got to realize that you're spot on with that. As a backup, your job is to, like you said, make his life easier. But you're his eyes where he can't see. I mean, at the end of the day, you might see that Josh made a play or whatever, threw one this way. He's like, hey, I was watching the other. Like, be careful with that corner or whatever, that safety biting down or whatever. Just things like that you can talk to him throughout the week or whatever, as far as that something you might have seen in the film study. To be able to share that with the starter. I mean, you're not, yeah, you want to be the starter. There's no doubt about that. But you got to understand your role as a backup. And I think that's a lot of times why, a lot of these guys that, have been starters their whole life that now are in this backup role that you see, a lot of veterans back in the day didn't really want to help, these younger guys because they knew those younger guys were coming for their jobs. But
Yep.
at the end of the day, to me, that's about understanding what it is to be a professional,
Yep.
and doing whatever you got to do to help your team win football games, because that's what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
If you win, everybody gets paid.
That's right,
Starters,
exactly.
backup, like they want to keep the squad
That's
together.
it.
100%. Well, which of the teams you played for, which was your favorite?
I would definitely say Kansas City would probably be my favorite, just because I played there the most. So as far as that was cool when you go out to dinner or something, people would recognize you. Obviously, it's still to this day people reach out on social media, man. Like, loved it when you were the Chiefs, man. That was, wish we had a better team around you, da da da. Da. And then, but in Miami, I loved it there. As far as it was always something to do. Like, if you'd have friends come in town, there was always something to do. It didn't matter what day of the week. And then in Buffalo, I mean, loved it there while I was there. I mean, that just, all they got is football
Football.
and hockey up there. I mean, that's just, they love their sports. It's a sports town, and just, to see that old stadium, that's tough to now that they're building that nice fancy stadium. I mean, there was a lot of history.
You went up to a game last year, didn't you? I saw.
2 years ago, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be when they do the new stadium. It'll be sweet.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about that.
It's definitely needed. I'm glad they didn't dome it up, so the home field advantage is truly a thing. But
Absolutely.
I mean, you remember that old home locker
Oh
room?
yeah.
It was it ain't a thing of beauty.
So funny how the NFL works as far as from that standpoint, because I swear when I was in Miami, I remember we had, obviously when you're playing teams in your division, you play them twice. You play them once at home and then once, on the road or whatever. And I remember in Miami when I got traded there. I remember, I think our first game might have been against Buffalo at home, but then I remember going to Buffalo later in the year, and I remember just pulling up in the buses. I'm like, man, I would never play at this shithole. And then, sure enough, played there for Miami. So I did that twice, and being in Buffalo, playing up there. And I remember the lockout year in 2011 coming around, and sure enough, Buffalo calls. So I'm like, shit, I'm going to Buffalo. So it's one of those things where, looking back, I mean, obviously, had to reap what I sowed, but as far as such a wonderful place and a wonderful experience to be able to play for the 7 years I did.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I was finally an unrestricted free agent. Just finished that year in Atlanta, 2016. Like, had 2 really good years in a row and had an opportunity to finally make some money. And I remember Atlanta offered me a 3-year contract, which was good, but Buffalo offered me a 4-year contract with more guaranteed money and kind of like better financial situation. But I remember calling Joel and being like, "Hey Joel, like, awesome, like, that's badass. Like, 4-year contract, 2 years of it guaranteed. Only problem though is, like, Buffalo's in my 30s on teams I want to play for. Like, there's only 32, so, like, it's in the bottom 3."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, that's going to be. I'll see if I can get a contract similar to that somewhere else, but if not, that's a business decision you got to make."
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, it was one of the best decisions I had made. Like, it kind of brought the joy of football back. Obviously, it was a program that hadn't made the playoffs in 17 years. My first year, we made the playoffs.
Yeah.
like a city that really rallies around their people. I mean, that fan base it reminds me of Carolina's fan base. Like it's just loyal as all get out, but it just brings back like in Atlanta, there's so many distractions, probably just like Miami, where Buffalo is like you go to the facility, you work your ass off, you might go to dinner with your buddies, your teammates after practice, you go to bed, you wake up and do the same thing the next day. Like it's just like a very routine based.
Exactly.
And it was definitely a charm. Well, let's get to these quick hitters at the end here.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about life after football. Like, obviously, you're living back here in Columbia now. Like, what are you up to? You married Whitney, who was a cheerleader at Carolina.
That's right.
So, kind of, what are y'all up to?
So nowadays, I've been doing real estate for about 9 years now. Mainly just representing buyers and sellers. Actually, last year I did my first or second flip, excuse me. So definitely been doing a little bit more investing as far as on the real estate side. But just as far as yeah, like I said, married Whitney Jones. She was a cheerleader at Carolina from '04 to '08. So I think she was there. Obviously, the transition between Holtz and Spurrier, I believe. But as far as got two little girls, Cameron and Allie, they're 9 and 8 years old, and they're certainly busy with their extracurricular activities with dance, keeping us busy there. But obviously living out in Chapin, South Carolina, which is about 30 minutes from downtown Columbia. Just obviously we're out here on the lake. Enjoy our summertime as far as getting out on the water and stuff. So certainly blessed and fortunate to be able to do the things we do.
Yeah. How many Carolina games do you guys try to make it to a year? Home games.
So we used to the past couple of years we did about 2 or 3. This past year I only made it to 1, which was the Coastal South Carolina game. So I like to get down. Went with Connor, I think, the game last year. Try to keep in touch with him, as far as playing a little bit of golf up here in the area. But he moved up to right above Clinton or whatever. So I hadn't seen him recently or whatever, and obviously, still keep in touch with him. But as far as try to get to as much as we can. I mean, there's nothing better than the atmosphere in Williams-Brice, man. That's a pretty special electric place.
Yep. All right. Well, last one here. We appreciate you joining us too.
Yeah.
What would be your best advice to give to a kid coming up in today's high school ball and pursuing playing college ball?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give them, obviously, you got all these coaches that hard work. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, if you're at that level, to have the ability, you've got the work ethic, as far as you should. But to me, it's like take advantage of your opportunities, make the most of each and every one of them. Don't be that kid just because you got all the talent in the world that you're not willing to, to work. Because I can tell you right now, I would take a kid with that's going to work harder than a kid that that has the more talent or whatever, because they're good kids at the end of the day. So to me, I would just say take advantage of your opportunities, work hard, do the little things right. That's the things that that build character when no one's watching. Because those are mistakes that I made. Because I certainly was the guy that had his fair share of fun. As far as being in college, being away from home. Exactly. I wouldn't bring anybody up, but. So to me is to take advantage of those opportunities that you have and make the most of them, because those opportunities may not come back around for you. So to me it's like like I said, just take advantage of those opportunities you got, work hard, and have fun. That's the biggest thing too, is have fun. I mean, I know it's a job, but have fun doing it. I mean, like you said too, you kind of you didn't get your fun back until you got to Buffalo or whatever. So to me, that's you're out there as a business, playing in the NFL or whatnot, but like enjoy the game. You play this game for a reason, so have fun doing it.
Yeah, especially high school and early on in college, or at least during our college, like those were the transformational years, and the years you're really playing with your buddies and developing relationships. You get to the NFL, and I guess it's the same way in college now, but it becomes so transactional.
Absolutely.
And it really does take the joy out of the game. And like sitting here watching, like, I coach Weston's Little League, everything, but like to see the innocence of a 9, 10, 11, 12, even 15, 16-year-old playing the game and going at it as hard as they possibly can, not a blink in their eye. Like those are the joys that I remember from football. It wasn't the having to deal with free agency and having to deal with travel and buying a house and this and that. It's the simple things.
That's it. Exactly.
Yep.
Well, dude, appreciate you joining us. We need to go tee it up here again sometime soon and link up. And we appreciate you, dude.
Appreciate it, brother. Good talking to y'all.